Tonight, a terrorist gets a hero's welcome home. The Libyan convicted of bombing Pan Am Flight 103, said to be dying of cancer, is released from prison. Relatives of his 270 victims are furious.
It's insane, it's a travesty of justice, and totally unacceptable.
I'm Jeff Glor. Also tonight, Election Day in Afghanistan.
20th, time to vote.
U.S. Marines encourage voters to get to the polls as the Taliban tries to scare them away. Credit card companies raising your interest rates before a new consumer protection law takes effect. And a modern-day Mark Twain adventure, building better lives along the way.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening. Katie's off tonight. The anger and outrage over the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 flared again today when this picture flashed around the world. A Libyan agent convicted in the attack that killed 270 people getting welcomed home today as a hero. He is said to be dying of cancer, and a Scottish judge ordered him released to spend his final days at home. Tonight, family members say a terrorist is getting the mercy their loved ones were denied. More now from Randall Pinkston.
It was an unbelievable sight for the families of those lost in Pan Am Flight 103 in December 1988. 57-year-old Abdel Basset al-Megrahi, the only man convicted of blowing up the plane, arriving to cheering crowds in Libya.
And today, to have the man that was convicted of murdering 259 at 31,000 feet on compassionate grounds is despicable, it's reprehensible, it's immoral.
I was appalled. I felt sick to my stomach when I heard about it. This man was convicted of the largest mass murder on British soil, and he was allowed to go free.
In 2001, Megrahi was convicted of checking the explosive luggage that eventually blew up over Lockerbie. This morning, carrying a cane, Megrahi walked unassisted aboard a Libyan plane after being released from prison. Scottish authorities called it a compassionate release because he's reportedly suffering from terminal prostate cancer. Ammerman was among the grief-stricken family members awaiting the return of loved ones that night at New York's Kennedy Airport. Many parents of Syracuse University students returning from studying abroad.
They took us up into the relatives' lounge, and around 11 o'clock they came around individually and said no one survived.
13 years after the bombing, two suspects, Megrahi and Lamine Khalifa Fhimah, were tried in the Netherlands under Scottish law. Fhimah was acquitted. Megrahi was given a life sentence but was released today after serving only 8 years. His hero's welcome directly against what President Obama had requested of the Libyan government.
We're now in contact with the Libyan government and want to make sure that he's not welcomed back in some way, but instead should be under house arrest.
But instead of house arrest, Megrahi was greeted by thousands, with Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's son serving as his personal escort.
The message that's given to these leaders of third world nations that believe in state-sponsored terrorism, we won. If you outweigh the United States and the United Kingdom, they'll eventually give in.
For victims' families, Megrahi's freedom diminishes their loss.
He gets to go home and be with his family before he dies. And none of the people he killed had that luxury.
Randall Pinkston, CBS News, New York.
Now to Afghanistan, which held its presidential election today, despite the Taliban's best efforts to disrupt it. The Afghan government said militants carried out 73 attacks in 15 of the country's 34 provinces. 26 Afghans were killed. A top election official said nationwide as many as half of the 15 million registered voters cast ballots. But in Taliban strongholds in the south, turnout was much lower. We won't know the results for several days now. President Hamid Karzai is expected to get the most votes, but not the 50% needed to avoid a runoff with top rival Abdullah Abdullah. This election is an important test for democracy in Afghanistan. So weeks ago, thousands of U.S. Marines were sent to Helmand Province to fight the Taliban in the hopes that Afghans might vote in peace. Our chief foreign affairs correspondent, Lara Logan, is on the front lines near the town of Garmsir.
Election day began here with Taliban gunfire and a rocket-propelled grenade that sent the Marines from Echo Company scrambling for cover. Moments later, they were headed for a nearby village in pursuit.
We have a couple guys that we talk to every day in this area, so we're going to try to see if we can talk to those guys and and kill whoever was shooting at us today.
Soon after, word comes that the suspects are gone. The Marines return to their original mission for the day, encouraging locals to vote in the election.
Saturday 20th, time to vote.
One after another, the villagers come up with reasons they couldn't make it to the polls. This man says the 12-mile road to the polling station is mined by the Taliban.
You gotta get out and vote. You gotta do a little sacrifice.
While this man says the Taliban told everyone here they will chop off their fingers. That's exactly what this Taliban commander told CBS News in an exclusive interview. If we find someone who has voting ink on his finger, we will cut his finger off, he said. The Taliban was hoping to scare enough people away to destroy faith in the election result. Voter turnout in southern Helmand province, they predicted, would fall to 10% from 68% in the last election. They couldn't scare everyone in Helmand. Some people in the village of Dahana did get to cast their ballots. Just days after Marines wrestled control of the town from Taliban fighters. Further south, where Echo Company operates, it was a different story.
The polls have just closed. Voting has now ended, and the Marines haven't found a single person in this part of Helmand province who actually voted.
Hey, what's up?
They did find curious young boys in the villages who played along as the Marines tried to pass on a few very American customs. But there was a sense by the end of the day here that a milestone in Afghan history had passed these people by, leaving this troubled part of the country more alienated from their government than ever. Lara Logan, CBS News, Southern Helmand.
The U.S. commander in Afghanistan is due to give a battlefield assessment this fall. As it stands right now, U.S. troop strength by year's end will total 68,000. CBS News has learned General Stanley McChrystal will recommend the Pentagon add 15 to 45,000 more. Now for the latest in the debate over health care reform. The Democrats have a new strategy tonight for trying to get a plan through Congress, and President Obama vowed today that it will be approved. Here's our senior White House correspondent, Bill Plant.
The president took his campaign for health care reform to talk radio today, attempting to reassure callers like Joe from Philadelphia that he's not wavering under the angry rhetoric of opponents and falling public support.
I'm getting a little ticked off that it feels like the knees are buckling a little bit.
I guarantee you, Joe, we are going to get health care reform done. You know, passing a big bill like this is always messy.
That's an understatement. Top Democrats in Congress today confirmed that they are considering splitting the bill into two parts. Reforms on which there's general agreement, such as making insurance portable and requiring companies to take customers despite pre-existing conditions, would go into one bill. The more expensive and controversial changes, such as the public option, would go into a separate bill, one which the Democrats could pass with a simple majority and no Republican votes. The public insurance option has become controversial. The president says he would still like to have it.
We're happy to make sensible compromises.
But when it comes to a public option, compromise doesn't seem possible in the House.
Hey, there's no way I can pass a bill in the House of Representatives without a public option.
Congressional leaders say they're still trying for a bipartisan bill, but that they are determined to get something done this year by any legislative means necessary. The president seemed to say as much in an internet meeting with some of his most fervent supporters who campaigned for him last year and are now going door to door for health care reform.
My obligation to the American people says we're going to get this done one way or another.
But the longer the debate drags on, the more unlikely it becomes that any bipartisan bill will ever get health insurance reform. And look for the argument to heat up when the president and Congress return from their vacations next month. Jeff?
Bill Plant at the White House tonight. Bill, thank you. Senator Edward Kennedy, who long led the fight for health care reform and is now battling brain cancer, today released a letter he sent to the governor and state leaders in Massachusetts. Dated July 2nd, he makes no specific reference to his own situation, but he is asking them to change state law so that when a U.S. Senate seat becomes vacant, the governor can fill it with a temporary appointment until a special election is held. Kennedy says the appointee should have to promise not to become a candidate in that election. In other news tonight, the government said today the very popular Cash for Clunkers program is ending soon. The rebates designed to get gas guzzlers off the road and jumpstart the U.S. auto industry will be closed now on Monday. But while car dealers took in the clunkers, Ben Tracy tells us tonight many are still waiting for the cash.
How'd you like the clunker program?
Don Mushin is the boss at this Los Angeles Toyota dealership, but these days he has a new title on his door.
We normally sell about 300 cars a month. We're on track this month to do about 600.
Thanks to Cash for Clunkers, what could have been a dismal summer for car sales now has a Hollywood ending. Nationwide, more than 457,000 clunkers have been traded in for more fuel-efficient models, and a total of $1.9 billion in rebates. But now, the wildly successful program that provided up to $4,500 per clunker is being scrapped. Yet there have been problems. Dealers have to front the money for the rebates, sometimes to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the government has been slow to pay them back.
Slow, I don't think is the word.
This dealership made 183 clunker deals, but has been reimbursed for just one. The government owes them $800,000. So Don and many other dealers are pulling out of the program early for fear of not getting paid. In fact, of the $1.9 billion in rebates dealers have paid out, the government has reimbursed them just $145 million.
They're going to get their money. We have the money. Congress provided the money. They're going to get their money.
Major auto manufacturers want to keep sales going, so they are now loaning dealers money for the rebates. Don says he's already done his part on the clunkers.
Thank you to the government if I get paid.
Now he wants his cash. Ben Tracy, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Turning to airlines tonight, JetBlue has cashed in on a special offer. 1 month of unlimited travel for $599. That promotion got a huge response, and the airline announced today that the passes have sold out 2 days ahead of schedule. And we want to show you some remarkable pictures this evening out of Utah. A man had fallen into a canyon while hiking on Red Mountain. The only way to get him out was with a helicopter. Look at where this pilot had to land. The chopper barely fit on the rocks. Pilot Terry Mercer says it is just part of his job. The hiker, 49-year-old Jim Williamson, was banged up, but he's expected to be fine. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, credit card companies raising interest rates right before new government limits kick in. New consumer protections went into effect today for credit card users. Among them, you have to be given 45 days notice of any interest rate increase, and you must get your bill at least 21 days before payment is due. As Kelly Wallace tells us, the credit card companies had this date marked on their calendars and got their rate hikes in advance.
Credit card companies say they're adjusting to the marketplace, but consumers say it's a money grab.
They got stabbed in the back.
Outside Tampa, Pam and Joe Fortune never missed a payment, but still saw their interest rates on one of their Bank of America cards more than double to 39%.
I feel that it's a sad state of affairs when we bail Bank of America out and they turn around and try to make more money off of us.
Card issuers appear to be locking in profits before the toughest limits on interest rate hikes and fees begin next February. Since President Obama signed the reforms into law, the average variable rate has increased from 10.79% to 11.22%. And a new report today finds credit limits have been slashed for 33 million people, half of them with excellent credit scores.
I don't think we've seen the end of the reign of terror by the credit card companies, and I just think that they are angling, they're trying to position themselves.
Capital One has increased its rates to almost 12%. Discover has hiked fees 30%. And Citigroup is beginning to add new annual fees, some in excess of $30. But the industry denies it's waging a preemptive strike to cash in before all the rules kick in.
And that's a red herring. The two main factors in changing the interest rate or your credit limit are the customer's risk profile as well as general economic lending conditions. That's really what's driving this train here.
That also may be driving people like Daisy Mitchell out of business.
At first I thought, is this even legal?
When Chase raised Mitchell's credit card rates from 10 to 14%, she says she was forced to shut down her children's boutique near Orlando.
I lost everything for apparently no reason.
The new rules are designed to protect consumers. But before the strictest reforms take effect, consumers may find themselves more vulnerable than ever before. Kelly Wallace, CBS News, New York.
And we have an update now on a story from last week when people were lining up $1,500 a day for free health care at a clinic near Los Angeles, many of them working poor with little or no health insurance. We can now tell you that over 8 days, nearly $3 million worth of care was provided to 6,344 people. Thousands more had to be turned away. The nearly 15,000 services included 338 mammograms, almost 2,000 eyeglasses, and 5,400 dental fillings. The clinic was run by a group founded to bring medical care to third world countries, but now most of their work is done in the U.S. because the need here is so great. Coming up next, keeping the flu off campus. College students are assigned new H1N1 guidelines. As students go back to school this month, H1N1 flu information will be required reading. Already more than 1 million cases have been reported in the U.S., and about half the victims are under the age of 25. So today the government put out new H1N1 guidelines for colleges. Here's medical correspondent Dr. Jennifer Ashton.
Even with most students still on summer vacation, there are many signs that this will not be an ordinary semester at St. John's University in Queens, New York. There are signs everywhere, promoting hand washing and educating students about the symptoms of the flu.
The message is prevention. You need to take prevention cautions.
This university is not only furiously cleaning high-traffic areas, it broadcasts its flu prevention messages in the cafeteria as well as on the school website.
Stay clean, St. John's. Use hand sanitizer.
And when school begins, teams of student health workers will be passing out flu prevention kits.
We gave them free bottles of hand sanitizer, just again to raise their awareness.
But if prevention efforts fail and kids do get sick, the CDC today recommended ways to decrease the spread of the influenza virus on campus. Sick students should avoid others until symptom-free for 24 hours. They should go home if possible. And if close contact cannot be avoided, contagious students should wear masks.
It does attack the young. And so this time it is you who has to pay attention.
Officials are so concerned about H1N1, they are also recommending sick students may need to move into temporary housing or find a flu buddy to help deliver meals and notes from class so they don't infect others, Jeff.
Meanwhile, Dr., I know as we talk about H1N1, the vaccine trials are taking place right now. What's the latest with those?
Those trials began this week in children aged 6 months to 17 years of age, but as we've reported, the vaccine is delayed, and that's what makes vaccinating this age group so important. College campuses where children live in close proximity, they aren't always the most hygienic, so getting a jump start on protecting that will really slow the spread of the virus and buy us some time until the vaccine is available.
Good idea to be careful. All right, Dr. Jennifer Ashton, thank you tonight, and we'll be right back. Finally tonight, a pair of modern-day Huckleberry Finns, a 6-month voyage rowing down the East Coast. But the real message of their trip is found in the places they visited and the people they've helped along the way. Seth Doan has more on the Habitat crew.
There we go. Two buddies, a 2,000-mile adventure, and a rowboat just shy of 20 feet.
Take a quick glance, make sure no freighters are running into us or anything like that.
This day started at 5 a.m., but their journey began with an idea back in April.
Me and John designed these using our engineering backgrounds, and we made everything here, welded them up.
Once on the crew team together at Cleveland State, graduate Tom Catula and senior John Hausman converted an old sailboat, even adding a solar panel for power, and set out on an adventure.
Went on Google Earth and looked for waterway passages and found a natural route that actually brought Americans west.
A journey down the river Henry Hudson first traveled 400 years ago.
That's just a coincidence, you know.
You aren't history buffs?
No.
Their mission from Cleveland all the way to Key West isn't historical, rather humanitarian. Building houses at 12 Habitat for Humanity sites along the way.
I wanted to go somewhere volunteer. People go South America, Africa. I kind of wanted to stay local.
Why?
Because of the A lot of it had to do with the economy.
Thank you so very much.
In Mamaroneck, New York, they helped rebuild a home destroyed in a flood.
You've been living with friends for how long?
2 years now.
Wow.
2 years.
This will be quite a change.
Yes, this is going to be exciting.
While most people won't go to the lengths that Tom and John have, last year 62 million Americans volunteered, the most since 2005. And it was 16 to 25-year-olds who made up half the increase.
It's been mostly fun, despite the tight quarters.
We haven't got any fistfights yet.
No.
Yeah. And they say they've gotten some help from a third buddy on board.
This is St. Nicholas. He is the patron saint of boaters and travelers.
Together, they navigate the waters guided by their sense of adventure. And a quote from Mark Twain: "Sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover." Seth Doane, CBS News, New York.
Some good advice. That is the CBS Evening News for tonight. For Katie Couric, I'm Jeff Glor. Thanks for joining us. Good night.